Hey, Richard Bryce here, tennis hacker. In this video, I want to talk about the #1 training priority for all tennis players, but especially for older tennis players. Tennis, there's a lot of different things that you can work on and that you might need to work on, but there's something that you need to focus on more than anything else. It ain't glamorous, it ain't sexy, but it's important, and that's preventing injuries. The biggest thing that prevents players from improving and ruins their enjoyment is getting injured and not being able to practice. So you need to dedicate enough time off the court to preparing your body and preventing injuries. So what I want to do in this video is kind of lay out the 4 top things that players should work on in order to prevent injuries, and I'm going to go through them in terms of order of easiest to implement through to the hardest to implement. So hopefully you find the video helpful. If you do, it'd be great if you give me a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to my channel before, much appreciated if you could do that as well. The first injury prevention strategy that I recommend all tennis players work on is doing daily joint mobility. So making sure that all of your joints are moving properly. The reason I place this first is because it has a profound impact on how your body feels, but it's also really easy. You can do a fantastic job in 10 to 15 minutes per day. And there's really 2 reasons why you want to do daily joint mobility. The first one is mechanical. You need all of your joints to move properly, because if any of your joints aren't moving properly, it's going to create mechanical tension and it's going to have to cause other parts of your body to compensate. So if, for example, your hip isn't moving properly, it's going to send stress to your knee or lower back. So it's really important that all the joints are moving for that reason. But then there's also a neurological reason as well. If joints don't move properly, they don't send feedback to the brain, and the brain expects to hear from all your joints, and just not hearing from the joints raises your brain's perception of threat, and it can be a major underlying cause of pain just because joints aren't moving properly and sending the appropriate feedback. So for both of those reasons, spending 10 to 15 minutes a day doing daily joint mobility can work absolute wonders for preventing injuries and reducing pain. The second injury prevention strategy that I recommend players work on is regular nerve mobilization. Just like with joint mobilization, it's really quick and easy to implement within your regime once you know how to do it. But nerves are such important structures within the body. It's how our brain communicates with the body and how the body communicates with the brain. So when you contract your muscle, your brain sends information via a nerve telling your muscle what to do. Your muscles then report back to your brain via sending information via the nerves, and that's how joints send information back to the brain as well. And in order for nerves to work properly, they have to move and they have to be flexible. Unfortunately though, they can get stuck to surrounding tissues. They can kind of become a little bit sticky. When that happens, they don't do their job as effectively, and just the stickiness can be a major underlying cause of pain. So by mobilizing your nerves on a regular basis, it's one of the most powerful things that you can do. 1, to make your body feel better, 2, to get rid of pain, and 3, to prevent injuries. The third injury prevention strategy is going to be something you're a little bit more familiar with, and that is building up your strength. Having enough strength reserves in order to withstand the stresses and strain of tennis. And the concept that I like to teach people is structural balance. We need all of the joints to have balance between the different muscles around the joint. So there's certain parts of the body, like the shoulders, that have a tendency for the chest muscles to become strong, the muscles at the front of the shoulder to become strong. People have strong lats, but then the smaller muscles at the back of the shoulder that deal with external rotation tend to be a little bit weaker relative to the big muscles. So it's really important to work on those smaller stabilizing muscles to create structural balance. Same thing for something like your wrists. The tendons in the wrist need a lot of strength in order to be able to handle modern tennis strokes. So when players first start playing, they tend to get a lot of wrist injuries because it just takes time to build up strength in the muscles and the tendons. So I recommend players work on building their strength over time, making sure that their body is safe. The fourth thing that I recommend players focus on in order to prevent injuries isn't a type of training, it's related to nutrition. Because a lot of the pain that people experience, a lot of the things that people think are to do with injuries, it's actually because there's inflammation in the body. Now, to help you understand this, pain works very differently to how most people think it works. Pain is a protective mechanism created by your brain in response to perceived threat and to perceived danger. And that's why moving your joints is important, that's why moving and mobilizing your nerves is important, and that's why having good strength and structural balance is important, because if those things aren't happening, that raises your brain's perception of threat. But something else that really raises your brain's perception of threat is inflammation. And if you're eating foods that cause a lot of inflammation within your body, it can cause pain all on its own without any injuries whatsoever. And this is what's happening to a lot of different people. So it's a case of kind of being a little bit more wise with your nutrition, removing the obvious inflammatory foods. So if you eat a lot of processed foods and junk foods, they're obviously the first things that need to go, and then kind of thinking about eating more of a whole foods diet. Now, I don't want to get into the nitty-gritty of exactly what foods that you should eat. The easiest one for most people is removing the processed junk, and that takes people a long way. The next most likely culprit for most people is going to be gluten, and I say that after running a lot of different tests on people looking for food intolerances. After that, next most likely one is going to be dairy. When you take gluten and dairy away from people that deal with chronic pain and injuries, stuff generally starts to feel better. And if you want a resource for that, Djokovic's first book, where he talks about it, it's one of the things that he had to do. It was very profound for him, and I found that it helps a lot of other people as well. But that's the fourth thing that I recommend players work on to prevent injuries. Okay, so I wanted to give you this quick overview of injury prevention strategies, because I know there's a lot of players struggling with regular pain and regular injuries, and it can be really frustrating. Now, if you would like help implementing what I've described in this video, this is one of the big things that I help players with inside my coaching program. If you'd like to chat to see if the program is right for you, I'll place a link down in the description that will allow you to choose a time to talk with me. If you've got any quick questions about what I've covered, I'll also leave them down in the comment section, and I'll get back to you as quick as I can. Otherwise, I'll catch you next time.